Hello, welcome. This is a OCR NXL video. Now this is not necessarily a topic video, just as the other one that goes along with this video isn't either. Now, as you can tell obviously by the title of the video, we're going to be looking at the Great Recession of 2008. We're going to be looking at what caused it, what happened during it, and sort of how we came to get out of it, although not too much on that last one. The key reason being because, as I said, this is just kind of a short-ish video on the Great Recession, because I know that's quite a theme on YouTube, so I thought I'd have a stab at explaining that as well. And then in the latter video, the other video that goes apart from this, now this, as I said, isn't strictly a topic in F585 or out of the ones that I do anyway, but it's just always nice to get an understanding as well. So it is applicable to F582, so I might put it in a separate playlist, I'm not sure. Anyway, so what I'm saying is I will do a proper video of all the key macroeconomic indicators, the past, present, future predictions. Well, it's not past predictions, you can predict the past, it's already happened. But that's obvious, you already knew that, because you're smart people. But as I said, this video is just focusing on the Great Recession. The other video that I'm going to do is going to go over economic growth, past, present, future. Sorry, it's just I've got my notes here that I'm going to go through. Inflation, I'll be looking at past, present and future for that. Unemployment and the balance of payments. Now I'll be looking at the current account in the balance of payments and the past, present and future predictions. Now for them, what I will do is, obviously, see in the video, is I'll draw kind of a sketchy graph on the board. Now the reason I'm mentioning that is because for the start of the explanation for the this Great Recession 2008, I'm going to be giving a bit of background. So as I said, you could always look online for the actual graph. Okay, so let's kick off. Right, so during the years from 2001 to 2007, even though it's not quite 10 years, if you look on a graph, you will see something called a nice decade. Now, this is obviously talking about economic growth. Now, nice, we don't just call it nice because it's nice. You know them biscuits that are nice, they're not actually nice, they're quite nasty. But obviously, you can't really sell biscuits to say nasty. Anyway, so why do they call it nice? Well, nice just means, it's not just because it's quite coincidentally, it means good, but it's non-inflationary continuous expansions. That means it doesn't go above our inflation target, and the economy is growing. Okay, so there's GDP increasing, but there's no increase in inflation. So that's obviously for the lower end of our Keynesian curve, the unused capacity. So we're moving aggregate demand across, but we're not, getting close to our full capacity. So that's why there was that nice decade, because the last big recession before 2001, if I get this right, was in the 1970s. I might have got completely out, but there was a big recession back before 2001, and I see just continuing recovering from that. Okay, so as I said, that's just a bit of background. And the reason I'm mentioning that is because, well, 2007, so just before 2008, you can kind of guess, the banks obviously were awash with money, because the this nice decade had meant people were borrowing, people were paying back, the bank was getting loads of interest, so there was loads of savings, people were saving, people were spending, and it was all happy days. But then along came the Great Recession. It snuck up behind us and bit us on the backside like some evil whatever would bite you on the backside. Okay, so as I said, banks were awash with money. So they started lending to these people in what we call subprime markets. Now, I probably should start writing this down for you. Okay, so at the sort of end of 2007 for 2008, banks lent to subprime markets. Now, a subprime market is basically It's just someone who wants to buy something, a house, who's not got a job and it's not got some kind of stable income. So there's no guarantee that they will be able to pay it back. So you may be asking, well, why the hell would the bank lend to these people before? Why would they lend to them now? Sorry, it's just I'm pretty famous, so you know, get YouTube comments all the time. Anyway, so the reason they started lending is because they would take on this debt and then they would quickly sell it off to foreign investors. That kind of brings back the same question: why would someone else buy it then? Now the reason is because house prices in the US were continuing to rise, and obviously they're continuing to rise all over. Because people were demanding houses, because people were paying back, so people could buy mortgages, so people were buying houses. So house prices were rising before 2007. They were continuing to rise. So when the banks started lending to these subprime markets, it just happened, and banks started doing it. Just, you know, there's one follow the other kind of thing. Okay, so they started lending to subprime markets because of something called sorry, do apologise. Because it was essentially guaranteed. So security backed, or essentially security backed investment of funds. Because let's say the house prices were, say we have a price of a house, we just pick a random house, and it cost £110,000 in 2005, okay? 205. And then it turned out this subprime market, obviously this is completely inaccurate, but this subprime market couldn't pay it back. And you know, say over 4 years, but they decided after 2 they won't be able to buy the, you know, pay all the rent, okay, the mortgage. And in that year, 2007, it was 180,000. The house was now worth 180,000. So it increased £70,000 by the time the person had said, I can't pay the loan. Okay, so that was in 2007. Let's say now, if the person, okay, said, right, okay, so their loan to buy this £110,000 house, this person had taken out a loan with interest, which you all totaled it up. It came to, let's say, £150,000 from the bank. That's say £40,000 interest. Okay. Now, if the bank came to this in 2007 and said, okay, we'll sell the house to someone who can actually afford it, get out, you scoundreling little animal. They would not only get their £40,000 interest all back, even if they, because the person might have paid already £10,000, so you can already add £10,000 onto this price because they've already paid £10,000 towards it. So they would not only get the full value of the house back, they'd also get the full value of the interest back plus £30,000. So it would have been good if the person couldn't have paid it back, because the bank would have earned even more money than they would have done if the person had paid it back. So, you know, there's all the incentive for, sorry, classy way, I just forgot I had a rubber on the right of me here. So basically, they were selling it off to foreign investors, sold debt to foreign investors because of this security-backed investment or funds or whatever you want to call it, sold to foreign investors around the world. Okay, and yeah, okay, it was all good for them. It was all happy days. So surely, what happened? What caused this corruption that caused this catastrophic effect all over the world? Well, we know that the American, I'd say American, right? The American economy is such a big part of the world's entire economy that pretty much every economy, every large economy, takes steam from the economy in America. So if we look at the interest rates have recently gone up in America, so we follow suit to stop hot flows of money leaving. As I said, that's for another video, but that's just proving to you that the American economy is sort of the base of all economies, kind of follow suit. So to understand why all this happy days went into jolly down the drain, we need to be able to think, okay, well, what was happening in the American economy at the time? Well, we know that house prices were increasing all over the place, but because the interest rates had increased in America, so in this time that the foreign investors were buying this debt, the interest rate in America had increased for the first time, just increased. And if the interest rate in America increased, as I said, to stop hot flows of money, so these other foreign investors, just random people not associated to these, to stop them putting their money in America so they could get high rate of return, because remember interest rates are the rate of return, then obviously everywhere else had to put up their interest rates as well. But as I said, going back to the American economy, so as the interest rates increased because of inflation, they really did that to cap inflation, because the American economy was growing so well, just as the other economies were. They wanted to get it back in target, and one of the ways you get the economic growth back in target is with increasing interest rates, because obviously that restricts aggregate demand, restricts spending, so obviously therefore it's going to cap economic growth. So that's all good for America, but America weren't thinking about the rest of the world when he did that. So it's kind of America's fault, really. Okay, so if interest rates increased, this would obviously therefore make borrowing more expensive, and you don't find £150,000 to buy a house lying around. So obviously, therefore, the demand for houses decreased. Okay, so therefore the house prices, HP, decreased. Okay, in America. Sorry, one sec. Yeah. So, as I said, interest rates everywhere else increased because they all follow America. Now, because we were saying, okay, well, these people on subprime people bought these houses. They didn't have a secure income. They didn't have a high income. They were on a low income, if anything at all. And they bought these houses, but obviously because house prices have been increasing, these foreign investors said, yeah, even if they default on their loans, then we can still get even more back than they originally intended to pay anyway. But because America increased their interest rates to cap economic growth or to cap inflation, therefore the demand for houses had decreased, and then obviously, therefore everywhere's house prices had decreased. But because the interest rates had increased, and remember, interest rates, not only the rate of return, but the cost of borrowing, all these subprime markets had bought their houses on something we call a variable mortgage. Now, if you don't know what a variable rate mortgage is, a variable rate mortgage just says, okay, well, whatever the current rate of interest is in the economy at whatever time you're considering, that is proportional to what they pay back. So, if the inflation rate is 5% 1 year, then the amount they pay back will be 5% greater than, standard. Basically, the price of the mortgage repayments. But if the interest rate was minus 2%, they would pay 2% less than they would originally be. Okay, so you kind of get that idea, right? So basically, anyway, that's what variable rate mortgage. But because all these subprime lenders subprime people had bought their houses on variable rate mortgages, and we said interest rates have increased in America, therefore obviously we increased them in England as well, all over the world. So therefore so all these subprime markets, subprime people bought variable rate mortgages, so their mortgage repayments went up. So mortgage repayments, MR, of subprime markets and everywhere else had increased. So mortgage repayments of subprime market people had increased, such as everywhere else. But subprime market, everyone else can afford their interest repayments. But obviously, therefore, this meant subprime people couldn't pay back their loans and began to default on their loans. And if they began to default on their loans, because before we would have said, that's no problem, because you could just sell the house and get more money for it. But because house prices had fell in America because of the increase in interest rates, decreasing the demand for houses, everywhere else house prices had decreased. So actually what was happening, people were defaulting on these loans. These banks were saying, okay, well now we'll sell the house, but it's worth less, not only less than the added interest, but less than they originally the house was actually worth. So the bank has also lost its interest, but part of the value of the house in this short period of time. So therefore, as they began to default on their loans, the banks were losing money. Money was just disappearing off the face of the earth. Banks were losing money. And when they begin to lose money, they have to take drastic action. Okay? Now, because interest rates had increased, obviously the cost of borrowing had increased as well. We've already said that. But the interest had increased and people were being obviously put out of jobs because they couldn't afford certain things anymore. Therefore, obviously, if interest rates increase, naturally you would see consumption decrease. Okay? And obviously this goes on and on and on, because see, if consumption decreases because interest rates increase and people have to borrow to spend. This all implies that people are going to be put out of jobs, unemployment's going to decrease. Yes, inflation will decrease in the longer period, but really what we're seeing here is a constant spiral of downward rubbish. Okay, so that's pretty much the recession. So in a nutshell, just to sum up, the recession just occurred because we had a nice decade, not only in the UK but all over the world, where we had not well, in the UK we had the nice decade between 2001 and 2007, but all the economies all over the world were generally growing. So therefore they were all awash with money. So they soft landed into the subprime markets, who bought them on variable rate mortgages because the interest rate was fairly low, which meant that obviously, you know, they were able to pay it at a lower rate, and as house prices were increasing, even if they couldn't pay back their loan, the bank would make more money if they didn't, because the house would be worth more. So therefore this was sold off to foreign investors all around the world, which was all great until the interest rate in America increased to cap inflation, and therefore the demand for houses decreased because people had to borrow to get a house, and therefore house prices decreased. And if house prices decreased, if interest rates increase, this means because they're on a variable rate mortgage, they have to pay more. Because they can't afford it, they default on their loans. And because house prices have decreased, then the people who this debt has been passed on to have bought, they're no longer going to make anything back, they're going to lose money. So because they lose money, banks, you don't really wary of lending to people. So therefore, this means the money isn't flowing around the economy as much, which also is added to the fact because interest rates are increased, the consumption decreases because people have to borrow to spend, therefore unemployment increases, so not decreases, which obviously means that no money's flowing around the economy, so people aren't spending, so it's all downhill for everyone. It's all bad news. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Alright, for the Great Recession of 2008. Honestly, we began to come out of it, began to recover, which I'll analyse in a lot more detail and go into a lot more detail about in the forthcoming videos. But for the moment, that is just really what caused the recession. I will be uploading a full synopsis of the UK economy fairly soon, which gives a bit of an insight into what we're going to do, what the economy is going to be looking like for 2016, the outlook for 2016 in terms of the key macroeconomic indicators, but hopefully you understand everything that we've gone through today. If there's anything that you want me to go through, please do let me know in the comments, and if you want me to sum it up in the comments rather than trying to watch this whole video, please do let me know and I will happily sum it up for you. Or I'll do another video and just go through straight this, okay? Straight this, just go through it, assuming you know all of it. But I just did it today just to recap some of the things that you might not have been sure of if I'd have just gone through all of that, because I'm sure some of you might not have known what variable rate mortgages are, some of you might not have remembered the interest rates if you've just done F584, so it's just always nice to have another look back. But anyway, that's just another video for F585. Okay, so we'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching, see you soon.